When the siren came, scary stories from the internet. As wispy rain filled the air, Damien Jones sat alone on a bench, contemplating the uncertainties of his life and whether he even wanted to experience it. Nearby, two older ladies sensed his gaze and briefly glanced back at him, their faces hidden behind oversized scarves. They noticed the grim, emotionless look on Damien's face, which had aged beyond its years in just a few days. Radiant, sore eyes followed the ladies as they quickly entered their nearby home, its front garden a testament to neglect and decay. Nothing thrived there anymore, not even the trees at the end of the street. Damien absent-mindedly rubbed a metallic blue toy car in his hand. Its once vibrant colors faded, symbolizing his loss and pain. The sky darkened prematurely, the fine drizzle clinging to his grizzled stubble. Fletcher Reese watched Damien from his home office, feeling a swell of sadness for the broken man outside. Fletcher had known Damien from school, a boy with a fearsome reputation that had followed him into adulthood. But the town had a deeper, darker history. It all revolved around a man named Harry Fogg, a figure that had terrorized the town during the war. He dressed as a warden, complete with an eerie gas mask, and had a peculiar habit of enforcing rules, especially at night when the siren called. As Fletcher listened to music on his wireless headphones, he couldn't help but feel trapped in the town's cycle of fear, waiting for the inevitable return of Harry Fogg. The siren had become a haunting reminder of the past. Fletcher remembered the stories from his childhood, how parents would invoke the name of Harry Fogg to discipline their misbehaving children. But those tales had hidden the true horrors that the town had faced during the war. Horrors that resurfaced whenever the siren sounded. One evening, the siren's eerie wail filled the air, reminiscent of old war movies. People came out of their homes, some excited but nervous, while others, the older residents, closed their doors tightly, remembering the nightmare that had once plagued the town. Fletcher sat in his office, tense and fearful, as the siren's sound grew louder. He couldn't escape the dread that enveloped him, knowing that Harry Fogg was out there, lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, a metallic clink caught Fletcher's attention. It was the sound of his gate latch, a distinctive noise that sent shivers down his spine. Had someone opened it? Panic surged through him as he contemplated his next move. With trembling hands, Fletcher looked out the window, fearing the worst. He couldn't see anyone, but the sound of boots echoed in the distance. The terror of the siren and the phantom of Harry Fogg were closing in on him. Fletcher's mind raced, and his body refused to move. He was paralyzed with fear, unable to decide whether to stay or flee. He knew the rules. No lights, no looking, no noise. But fear had a way of making one forget the rules. As the minutes passed, Fletcher heard the clinking of boots growing nearer. He knew that Harry Fogg was approaching, and there was nowhere to hide. The siren's wail continued to fill the air, a chilling prelude to the horrors that awaited. In the darkness of his office, Fletcher finally spotted a source of the metallic clink, a pair of wireless headphones with a blinking blue light. In a moment of panic, he flung them away, breaking the rule of not looking. But it was too late. The curtain had fallen open, and he had broken the rules. Harry Fogg had seen him, and there was no escape. The siren's wail grew louder, and Fletcher's heart pounded in his chest. Harry Fogg was at his door, and there was no way to escape. Fletcher's mind raced as he tried to remember the rules, but fear had clouded his thoughts. He had broken them, and now he would pay the price. The door split open, and the figure of Harry Fogg filled the doorway. He wore the same eerie uniform, the gas mask obscuring his face. Fletcher's vision blurred as he felt the weight of impending doom. But then, a voice interrupted the terror. It was the old lady, Naomi, who had been sitting silently in her chair. She spoke to Harry Fogg, pleading with him to spare Fletcher. It seemed she knew him, had known him for a long time. Harry Fogg turned away, leaving Fletcher trembling on the couch. Naomi explained that Harry had once been a soldier, a member of the lost generation, scarred by the horrors of war. Something had changed in him during the war, and he had come back a different man. As Naomi recounted the town's dark history, Fletcher's fear began to mix with curiosity. Harry Fogg had enforced strict rules during the war, but it had escalated to something far more sinister. He had taken children into the woods and claimed to set them free, but they never returned. Fletcher couldn't comprehend the horrors that had unfolded in the town during those dark days. He wondered about the fate of those children and the depths of Harry Fogg's madness. As Naomi's voice trailed off, she sobbed, and Fletcher's gaze was drawn to a sepia photograph on a nearby shelf. It depicted a family, and among them was the soldier who had become Harry Fogg. The soldier's eyes seemed haunted, and Fletcher couldn't look away from the photograph. Naomi's words about Harry Fogg's transformation and the darkness that had consumed him echoed in his mind. Suddenly, the back door of Naomi's house clicked open, and the sound of heavy boots filled the room. Another figure in the eerie uniform entered, carrying the wireless headphones, a trophy collected, just like the other trinkets in the room. Fletcher's last moments were excruciatingly painful as Harry Fogg exacted his punishment. The room filled with smoke as Fletcher's life was snuffed out. Naomi wept for the lost soul, and Harry Fogg retreated, leaving behind a room filled with the remnants of his terrible deeds. The siren's wail continued to haunt the town, a reminder of the darkness that had once consumed it. As Naomi cradled Harry's cold hand, she whispered a curse for the one who had released him from hell. Fletcher's life had been snuffed out, and the town's nightmare continued. Harry Fogg had come home, and there was no escape from the horrors he brought with him. The room, now filled with a haunting silence, seemed to absorb the last remnants of Fletcher's agony. Naomi stared at the lifeless figure on her floor and then at Harry, who had returned to his perpetual state of stillness. "Why did you ever come home?" Naomi repeated her question, this time louder and with a mixture of anger and sadness. She had lived with this nightmarish presence for far too long, and her resentment towards it had grown with each passing year. Harry's mask, emotionless and enigmatic, offered no answers. The room remained unchanged, frozen in time, a relic of past horrors. Naomi had been both a witness and a victim of the dark chapter in her town's history, a chapter that had left scars on her soul. As Naomi grieved for the life that had just been extinguished before her eyes, She couldn't help but wonder why Harry had spared her all these years. She had seen him at his worst, known his malevolence, and yet she had been allowed to live. The room was permeated with a sense of dread as she contemplated her own fate. What would happen now? Would she continue to endure this torment? Or had something changed within Harry, making her his next target? Time seemed to stretch endlessly, and Naomi remained paralyzed with fear and uncertainty. The only sounds were her own uneven breaths and the distant echoes of the town awakening to another day, oblivious to the horrors hidden within its midst. Outside, the world carried on as usual, ignorant of the sinister figure and the tragedy that had just unfolded in Naomi's home. The sun's rays, no longer obscured by dark clouds, filtered through the windows, casting a feeble glow on the scene of despair. Naomi knew she couldn't stay here, in this house filled with painful memories and the presence of the relentless tormentor. She had to find a way to escape, to break free from the grip of the past and the looming threat that was Harry Fogg. Summoning her courage, Naomi rose from her chair, her frail form trembling with resolve. She approached the lifeless body of Fletcher, whose face bore the agonizing expression of his final moments. With great effort, she managed to drag him towards the front door, leaving a trail of dark stains on the floor. Once outside, Naomi realized that she couldn't rely on anyone in the town for help. They had all succumbed to the collective fear of Harry Fogg, turning a blind eye to his atrocities. She needed to find a way to confront the malevolent presence that haunted her town and find a way to end the cycle of terror. As she looked back at her home, a place that had become a prison of despair, Naomi made a solemn promise to herself. She would uncover the secrets of Harry Fogg, confront the demons of the past, and bring an end to the nightmare that had plagued her life for far too long. With Fletcher's lifeless body in tow, she embarked on a journey into the heart of darkness, determined to uncover the truth about Harry Fogg and the horrors he had wrought upon her town. The sun had risen, casting its feeble light upon the path ahead, but Naomi knew that she was entering a realm where darkness reigned supreme, and the true horrors were yet to be revealed. Naomi's journey took her through the town, where the eerie calmness of the morning seemed to mock the horrors she had witnessed. She had no clear plan, only a burning desire to uncover the truth and put an end to the reign of terror that had plagued her town for far too long. As she moved through the streets, the few people she encountered averted their eyes and hurried past her, their faces etched with fear and avoidance. The town had been gripped by Harry Fogg's malevolent presence for so long that even speaking his name had become taboo. Naomi knew she needed answers, and her search led her to the town's library, a place where the memories of the past were preserved within the pages of dusty books and forgotten documents. She hoped to find information about the origins of Harry Fogg, his transformation from a man to a monster, and any clues that might help her confront him. Inside the library, the air was heavy with the scent of aging paper and the weight of forgotten knowledge. Naomi approached the librarian, an elderly woman who had seen the town change over the years. "Excuse me," Naomi began hesitantly. "I'm looking for information about Harry Fogg, the man who once lived in this town." The librarian glanced at her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You shouldn't speak of him," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Harry Fogg is a name that should never be uttered." Naomi persisted, her determination unwavering. Please, I need to know. I've lived with his presence for too long, and it's time to uncover the truth. The librarian hesitated for a moment, her eyes darting around to ensure no one was listening. Finally, she nodded and led Naomi to a hidden corner of the library, where a collection of old newspapers, journals, and diaries were kept. These are records from a time long past, the librarian explained. They contain the stories and secrets of those who lived through the darkest days of this town. Naomi began to sift through the documents, her heart racing as she pieced together fragments of the past. She discovered accounts of a man named Harry Fogg, once a war hero during World War I, whose life had taken a dark turn upon his return to the town. According to the records, Harry had become obsessed with maintaining order and darkness. He had donned the uniform of a warden, a symbol of authority, and began enforcing strict rules on the townsfolk. Anyone who broke these rules faced unspeakable consequences. Naomi's hands trembled as she read about Harry's transformation into a monstrous figure, his face hidden behind an unsettling mask, and his actions shrouded in mystery. The townspeople had lived in constant fear, obeying his commands out of sheer terror. But Naomi also uncovered whispers of resistance, a group of brave individuals who had tried to stand up to Harry Fogg's reign of terror. Their efforts had remained largely hidden, but their determination to end the nightmare had been unwavering. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Naomi felt a glimmer of hope. She realized that there were others who had fought against Harry Fogg's malevolence, and their legacy might hold a key to confronting him. Leaving the library with a sense of purpose, Naomi knew that she had a daunting task ahead. She had to find those who had resisted Harry Fogg, uncover their hidden stories, and gather the strength to confront the malevolent presence that had haunted her town for generations. As she stepped back into the daylight, Naomi felt a renewed determination. The path ahead was treacherous, but she was willing to face the darkest secrets of her town to bring an end to the reign of Harry Fogg and finally free herself from the nightmare that had consumed her life for far too long.